what is Zircuit? Zircuit's a fairly new zero-knowledge rollup. We've been building for a couple of years, but we came out of stealth and started sort of showing off our testnet at DevConnect in Istanbul in November of 2023. And what we wanted to do is take an optimistic rollup infrastructure, that one built by the optimism people who are doing good things, and put in a zero-knowledge proof system because we were sort of sick of waiting 7 days for withdrawals, and everyone just said it should work. Turns out it was a lot of work, but nonetheless, we got here, and it's great. And what that means is we have a VM and a node infrastructure where everything just works on Ethereum. So it should be as simple for everyone in this room to change an endpoint to their favorite tool, whether that's MetaMask or Hardhat or whatever people are using these days to build dApps, and it'll just work. And we've tested this, so I know that this is a true claim, more or less. But it's really cool because you get all this cool stuff that works with Optimism and Ethereum itself out of the box with a zero-knowledge system that reduces the finality time. And we got here through some research. We had a lot of ideas for things on security and just different ways to do things in a rollup. In the zero-knowledge side, for example, there was always ways to optimize things. But what we really wanted to do as a research idea was to figure out how to make Zircuit more secure ecosystem than your average rollup ecosystem. And this is a really hard challenge because zero-knowledge proofs do that in the sort of sequencer ecosystem, the infrastructure for the sequencer. I can't cheat if I'm using a zero-knowledge proof system and I've done my job correctly and there are no bugs and things like this. But that actually doesn't give us a lot of protection for the rest of the users in the space. I mean, certainly it means I can't make up money for myself and then rug pull my users. That's very helpful. But it's kind of a solved problem with the zero-knowledge proof. What we wanted to do instead was bring something that even dApp developers and users of our network would gain even without doing any extra work. So what we want is to prevent hacks everywhere. We can't do that. We don't have total control of the Ethereum network, obviously, so we can't do it everywhere, but we can do it in some places, namely on our rollup. And so what we did was we actually added this idea of sequencer level security, which I'll talk about very quickly in a couple of slides, and I'll tell more about that. But first, let's focus on the first thing about building on it. And like I've already said, anything that works on Ethereum or on the Optimism stack will work out of the box for us. If it doesn't, let us know. It's probably a small configuration issue or a bug, but in principle, everything really works. So your smart contracts are going to work, your wallets are going to work, but do note we're not on the superchain. We're built on the OP stack, but because we've done something different with our sequencer, we're not on the superchain, so it's going to be a slightly different setup, but it should still be very easy. Then we took all the stuff that was good there, and we already talked about how we put ZK circuits in there. As a dApp developer, you don't need to know about that. If you're interested in taking a look at our circuits or building stuff with the type of circuits that we were using, we can point you to some places that look kind of similar to what we're doing. There are other open source projects right now that use sort of a lot of the same ideas or were starting points for even our project. And what this means is we have a nice developer experience, or at least I hope so. If it's not, please let me know. This is a hackathon. Part of what we're here is to get some feedback from you. And in terms of the zero-knowledge proof systems, one of the places we could start was the privacy scaling aspiration team ZK-EVM, which has been out for a while. I don't actually know if it's being maintained anymore. I heard a rumor that it's not. I haven't followed up. But if you are interested in trying to build your own ZK rollup or seeing how complicated it was to build Zircuit or something like this, take a look at these. They're very good. They're not necessarily as performant as you'd want, or they have different configurations that maybe aren't ideal, but we ended up using them. If you're interested and want to learn more about Halo 2, this is also a very good starting point because this is the proof system that we use. And at the end of the day, we glued these two things together to come up with Zircuit. I've already said this. And the result was something that has really, really good, easy to connect infra that works, as well as a very good, well-developed set of circuits that were customized and optimized to do whatever we want, and enables us to do some of those things that we wanted to do, namely add some security. So I think the next slide is the sequencer level security, which I'll talk about. But also, if you also have very ambitious goals for this hackathon and you want to build a rollup, forking these two repos and trying to get them to talk to each other is non-trivial. It does take some time. So I encourage you to try it, but it's actually, substantial amount of effort. But it is a really cool challenge. But what we really wanted to do is add some security. Okay, I guess the next slide. I'm sorry, I haven't practiced this one as much as I should have. So what you get from all of this is EVM compatibility. I think I've talked about this, so in the interest of time, I'm going to do this. I will point out one note that I didn't talk about. We don't have support for Cancun. So if you're building something that needs transient storage, The testnet for Zircuit, unfortunately, will not support it at this time. We're working on it, but we got to get things up to date. We just, I think, moved to Shanghai relatively recently, sometime in the early year. So everything up to that VM should work, but anything else might need some things. If you have questions or concerns or want to help us get there, please let me know. And you get better finality. I've already talked about this. So I've alluded to this topic. I'm going to spend some time here because I'm running out of time, and I want to actually get to the hands-on part of this. I didn't actually want to be talking about what we're doing for too long. But the main draw to Zircuit is really this idea of added security and the sequencer level security. So what we do is we have a sequencer that's currently centralized, and we actually have an AI in there that will look at transactions and flag them as malicious or benign. And if they're malicious, they're going to go into quarantine, and if they're benign, they're just going to go. So if you're an honest user, there's no difference to what your transaction does. It's going to go through every time. You're going to transfer your funds, you're going to mint your NFTs, you're going to do whatever you want to do on the blockchain. But if you're a hacker and you're trying to execute something that certainly looks like the old stuff that we've seen, or trying to do something else that is still new, but it's going to wipe out a DeFi protocol, that's actually going to be flagged for quarantine and put into quarantine, which means your dApp won't be wiped out if you're the dApp person who's getting attacked, and if you're the attacker, that transaction is not going to go through. Now, that might be a little controversial, but honestly, we think it's a very pragmatic, practical approach to security, and everyone on the chain gets it for free. So if you build a DeFi dApp, and you come to Zircuit, now you have an extra level of protection against flash loans that you don't have on another level, on a different network, without doing any extra work. And that's really, really key. We do all the lift with the AI to figure out what's a hack and what should be stopped. That does not mean you should deploy code that has a bunch of errors or bugs. Please don't do that. Do your part. Write good engineered smart contracts and DeFi dApps to protect your users. The SLS is a best effort service. It could not catch something, but ideally it does. The point is, though, we get this nice, great thing that gives us more security guarantees, right? So in addition to transactions being well-formed, they also have to be well-intended in some sense. So that's what sequencer level security is, and here's sort of how it works. Basically, we do some stuff in the sequencer. In the interest of time, I'm not going to talk about it. Please hit up our docs. We have some prizes, which I'll talk about near the end. If you want to work on stuff related to SLS and need more details, come find me or my colleagues, and we'll see what we can do about sharing some of this information. So that's Zircuit in a lightning round that probably was too quick. But let's go on to the hands-on part of this. So if you've never used a rollup, this might be interesting, and it might be surprisingly easy. If you have used a rollup, this may not be as interesting, but bear with me as I go through. I'm here with Zircuit, so I'm going to point you to a bunch of tutorials and guides built from Zircuit. Docs.zircuit.com is a great place to connect to our network. It has everything you need to know about connecting wallets or infrastructure or setting up, whatever your frameworks for development is. And we also, have a standard bridge, a canonical bridge, and a standard block explorer. So bridge or explorer.zircuit.com will take you there. Feel free to use them. Please do use them. If you're trying to claim prizes for Zircuit, you do need to have your code verified on explorer.zircuit.com. And then if you need questions and we're not around, or you're remote and you're not here in person, ask us on Discord. We're happy to help. And finally, two other initiatives that aren't directly related to the hackathon, but you might still be helpful, are build.zircuit.com. So it's a place where we reward partnerships with the ecosystem. So if you finish a project and you think it's actually going to be going somewhere and you want to deploy it, come talk to us and deploy on our network and when we go live. And we can sort of hook you up with all the support you need there. And if you're into LRT and LST restaking, we can also offer you points by restaking in stake.zircuit.com. But those are less important. Okay, I feel like I'm talking a lot. I've got 6 minutes left. I got to get through this. The hands-on part, we're going to use the Zircuit testnet. And Zircuit testnet is a testnet, unfortunately. It's not quite live. We're going live very soon, but I don't want to promise any explicit dates, especially as I'm being recorded, and people, always hold me to dates. So you'll need Sepolia ETH, good resources for Sepolia. There's a bunch of faucets. ETHGlobal's got a really good one. It also gives you ETH on Zircuit itself, directly on Zircuit. So you don't need to bridge necessarily if you withdraw on the ETHGlobal faucet, but there's other ones. Also, if you do find me around and you ask nicely, I can probably help you out a little bit. I'm not going to give out tons, but maybe I can do something. Otherwise, once you connect, it's pretty easy, so I'll go through Sepolia very quickly. I'm going to use MetaMask for this example because I think a lot of people are still familiar with that. Maybe I'm just old and it's not popular, but I like it. Basically, to connect to Sepolia, all you want to do is you want to switch this toggle to on so that you can see test networks, and Sepolia should be baked in. Connect to that. Then you can go to the faucet, collect the funds I was talking about. And then to go to Zircuit with those funds, it's very easy. Just go to bridge.zircuit.com. After you add Zircuit testnet to the network, all of this is on the docs. You don't need to worry about the specific numbers or chain ID or anything like this, but it's just this easy. You go into MetaMask, you want to add yet another network. You say add custom network, because I don't think we're in there by default just yet. Add these details and everything just works. And then you go to bridge.zircuit.com. It'll ask you to connect with MetaMask. Just hit next, you'll be fine. And then you just choose what you want to bridge. Right now I think the support mostly is for ETH, Sepolia ETH. So take from Sepolia onto Zircuit, put in some number in that field on the bottom left, say I want to bridge it. This modal will pop up and say approve this in your wallet, and then the next slide you just go to MetaMask and say approve, and everything is done and everything works. So it's just that easy. Once you have ETH on Sepolia, on Zircuit testnet, you can use it just like anything else. You can send it to other people on Zircuit. You can take your keys and put it into Hardhat and produce a Foundry or whatever it is you want to do, and you're all set. I was going to say more, but I didn't. So there's a lot of docs. I'm going to give you some homework instead. The withdrawal is a little bit more complicated. It's not prohibitively complicated. Go try it out. More importantly, go to try to deploy contracts on it. I think that's the more exciting stuff, and build on it and see what you can do with this. And because we're at a hackathon, try to win some prizes. If you're here, we've got a lot of prizes out there. There's ones for best project, best integrations or analytics. They're still fairly new. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit that probably will work. Best DeFi, best gaming, and most creative project. You can see more on the ETHGlobal site for these descriptions. They're pretty open-ended. The best will just be the best, whatever that means. We want quality, we want completeness, good code. And we want some of these requirements, which are a little bit of a mouthful, but essentially a README that says what you did, why you did it, how you did it, that type of thing. And stuff to be deployed on Zircuit. What a surprise. So that's all really good, but what I would really like to emphasize, if you do submit for a prize, the one thing I will really ask you for as a personal favor here is feedback. If it didn't go that well, if it didn't work out, I want to hear, because I don't want my network to not be easy to use or anything like that. So feedback is greatly appreciated. And if you think it did go well, but we could do something even better, please let me know. I think that's really, really valuable feedback. So thank you. I encourage you to build on Zircuit so that when sequence level security is live. I can send it to you or tweet about it or something. Yeah, it's probably not on the docs. The docs should have everything else though. Anyways, build on us so when sequence level security is there, you can use it. Thank you.